Broadcasting from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, it's time for Dental Law Radio. Dental Law Radio is brought to you by Oberman Law Firm, a leading dental-centric law firm serving dental clients on a local, regional, and national basis. Now, here's your host, Stuart Oberman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dental Law Podcast. As we go into this second half of the year, if you will, we're seeing a lot of HR movement in the federal law area. And we're becoming more and more astute as to interviewing process, American with Disabilities Act. And we're getting a lot of questions regarding the interview process. What do we do? How do we do it? What's the questions? What's not the questions? What's the proper answer? Are we doing Zoom calls? What's the protocols for the interviews now in today's world? So I want to hit a couple things that really our doctors do not know about, I would say as a whole. And I think it's important because it's just one less step that our doctors have to worry about. So we're going to talk a little bit about, are you violating federal law during the interview process, which is an absolute loaded question. So what we're discovering now is actually interviewees on Zoom calls are actually recording your phone calls, recording your sessions. We're discovering that potential candidates are also recording your conversations during an interview process. So what you thought was a confidential communication between a prospective employee and employer is now going viral. So I think you got to be very, very, very careful how the interview process takes place, the procedures in place, make sure the questions are in place, make sure that you have the protocols in place to have a legitimate interview process, which is not in violation of state and federal law. But I want to talk about a lawsuit that came about that I think has been on the horizon for a while, and it's been a topic of a lot of things that we see in our dental offices also. So on April 29, 2001, the EEOC filed suit against Walmart. Again, I want to drill this down to how this affects our doctors and interview process. So our doctors have to be aware of the American with Disabilities Act whenever they are interviewing anyone or actually working with employees on a day-to-day basis. So what does this lawsuit allege? It alleges something our doctors probably do not do on a daily basis. The lawsuit, again, it's only allegation that Walmart violated the federal law by not providing a sign language interpreter for the applicant. So our question is, doctors, staff members, team members, what are you going to do if you discover that a applicant who's qualified, is a good candidate, comes within the ADA requirements, American Disabilities Act requirements for a legitimate interview, and you have to accommodate that? Do you have a procedure in place to accommodate that worker? An interview process. Doesn't mean you have to hire them, but do you have a process in place to accommodate them? So the allegation is they basically failed to hire this particular person because he was deaf. So the EEOC, of course, says the ADA requires that employers provide a disabled and able-bodied applicants the same opportunities to compete for the job, which is fair. The question is, when you do your interview process, are you doing that? How are you doing that? What's the process? Do you even know when that person comes in if there's a disability? And if so, what do you do when you discover that interview process? Or do you do what probably a lot of our doctors do, have a 10-minute interview and they're done and make the decision even before the person sits down? So the bottom line is that on the HR process, on the interview process, you have to make sure, one, your questions are legitimate. Two, your reasoning is legitimate. 3, that you're absolutely complying with all the ADA requirements that are required to provide the applicant the same opportunity as I'll use the term normal-bodied person that is not subject to the American with Disabilities Act. So the bottom line is that as these rights increase, as our exposure increases, because potential candidates are now recording conversations, candidates are now putting things viral, interview process-wise, the EOC is going to hold you accountable. That's the last thing you need. And you're trying to hire a candidate, and all of a sudden, you got the EEOC filing a complaint against you because you failed to comply with the ADA. So when you start this process again, HR in dental offices is your biggest nightmare. You got to have a procedure in place. You got to have a person appointed in your office to understand this. This is not your 6-person position. You can't have one person doing HR. You can't have one person doing payroll. You can't have the same person doing hygiene, checking out. It's not going to work. That's a recipe for disaster. So again, take a look at your policies. Take a look at your procedures. What is your HR in place? Especially in today's economy, where it is so hard to find workers. Workers are as transient as ever in today's world. Some of our doctors are showing 30, 40, 60, 70% turnovers. That is a lot, and you have to have a policy in place, procedure in place for interviews. It is critical. A bad interview, a bad procedural, a bad HR matter will set you back months and years. So, quick update. HR. Do it. Get it in place. Keep up to date what's going on. For those who really want to get involved in HR process, I would urge you to reach out to us. We do have a newsletter for our clients. We really try to have a lot of bullet points on the HR process because it is so ongoing. They're not comprehensive. It's not a 6-day read. A lot of it's just touch points, what you need to know. Please feel free to give us a call. Please feel free to reach out to us. That's what we do every day. So we have a lot of knowledge within the industry. Any questions, please feel free to give us a call at 770-886-2400. Feel free to reach out to me directly, Stuart Oberman, at Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, at ObermanLaw.com. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully it's been of some value. If you just took away one particular piece of advice, then it's a success as far as I'm concerned. Have a great day. Then we'll see you back at our next podcast.